Plot: Blind Fury, 1989. Nick Parker, Rutger Hauer, is a Vietnam vet who was blinded during the war. He was found by one of the local tribes, who taught him to enhance his remaining senses and to expertly wield a sword. On his return to the United States, he goes to visit an old army buddy, Frank Devereaux, Terrence O'Quinn, but discovers that he and his wife, Lynn, Meg Foster, are divorced, and Frank no longer lives there. What they don't know is that Devereaux was playing in a crooked casino in Reno, Nevada, and accumulated a large debt. Voiceover off.
When you're blind and watching movies, what will you find? A blind superhero whose superpowers are acting like he's not blind. A sighted actor over dramatically touching people's faces. Or maybe the whole joke is that they're bumping into different places. A spectacular, macular degeneration. Tunnel vision to your television until they off this movie with audio descriptions. They're movie buffs who know their stuff. You'll be thoroughly entertained. Join Sky and Melissa throughout film history and Citizen White Cane.
Hello.
Hi.
And welcome to Citizen White Cane, the podcast that doesn't see but still kicks ass, short and sweet today. My name is Sky McLeod,
I'm Melissa Bugda.
and we're getting furious today.
Yes,
And
yes, we are.
It is not Fast and the Furious,
No,
different one.
it's actually a little bit slow and a little plodding.
Yeah, and it's Crip time, so Blind Fury, Crip time is like that it takes disabled people a lot. It's just takes a lot more time to do things.
Wouldn't that be great though? The Blind and the Furious.
The Blind and the Furious would be so good, and it
Yes.
would also literally just be a movie about my life.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
Pretty
so
much.
I think most blind people's lives really is. It's a very infuriating world out there. But yeah, so this is a movie that Melissa, first of all, you
Yeah, so
picked.
it's my week, and this is this movie was pitched to me by a bunch of people. When I told them we were doing this podcast, they're like, "Oh my God, you have to do Blind Fury." Okay, but this was most exuberantly pitched to me by my improv friend, and he actually got up and like did sword moves and stuff when he was talking about this movie. So I was like, "Okay, this must be good. It's gonna be fun."
it must be a movie.
It must be a movie. It's not going to be accurate by any means of the imagination, and I definitely didn't go into this one being like, okay, I'm going to watch I'm going to pay attention to every single beat of his performance to see how nuanced it is, because my God, the first 10 minutes of this movie is him in Vietnam learning how to be a
That's
master swordsman.
the
I'm like,
most problematic
okay.
thing, though.
Okay.
I feel like that's where we're like, oh God, to start with that, and it feels very like not very good representation. I mean, I don't know.
Well,
That bothered me.
it is the trope of Eastern mysticism.
Yeah, but it's
basically.
also like mixed into the Vietnam War. It's like a hot mess of cultural stuff. Yeah, I don't know. There's this like, foreign lands, people do all these like it's a different planet out there, kind of. I don't know. Didn't feel great, but yeah.
But our protagonist Nick is in Vietnam, and he and his buddy Frank. It was like they say his name like 5 million times. Frank Devereaux. Devereaux, which is a cool last name, I have to admit. But Frank and Nick are army buddies in Vietnam. They're on their last day before they're supposed to go home. Their camp is attacked by there's a mortar attack at their camp, and they get separated, and each of them presumes the other is dead. And Frank goes back to the States, and Nick is found in the jungle and gets trained up by these Vietnamese villagers to be a sword master. I'm not really a martial artist. I'm more of a sword master, I think.
Yeah.
At least that's how I felt about the whole thing.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, a lot of it has to do with the sword, but I guess there's also some martial art aspects to it. But like, yeah, it is more sword wielding than anything.
And he goes back to the States. Nick, goes back to the States, and basically we meet him in the movie dispensing street justice, mostly.
Yeah, but really specified one. He's, because his friend Nick,
Nick's friend Frank.
Sorry, yep, they both have very
okay.
generic white dude names. Frank is, because I don't know, does Nick think that Frank is dead? Nick being Blind Fury himself.
I thought so.
Maybe. Yeah, it was kind of weird. It's also weird because he's like, I'm gonna go find Frank, and you're kind of like, I guess, and he says he's apologizing to him for like them getting separate, like that Nick Blind Fury is, because they do have very generic names, wants to like say like, I forgive you, like, to Frank,
right,
who like got them separated, I guess, or like was not able to save him.
Yeah, just to get that off of his soul, I guess. Yeah, that had happened. Well, we find out that Frank is engaged in some pretty shady business with this drug oil tycoon kingpin guy. All of the bad guys in this movie are absolutely generic. They are cutouts of just whatever you like. Think of an 80s 90s movie, action movie bad guy, and that's what they are.
And it's like offensive because the whole thing is they're making him like make drugs that don't exist, and it's just like, this is so far from, like, it felt like a Dare commercial. It was so infuriating to me. I was really upset by it.
If you notice, the stuff that he ends up making is blue.
Yeah,
and all I could think about is Breaking Bad.
Oh yeah, does Breaking Bad have blue things?
Yeah, their meth is blue. Oh, that's their signature is blue meth.
Oh, okay. That's so, I guess maybe this is like a weird Hollywood thing, but yeah, no, it's definitely very different from Breaking Bad, and then it's like, oh, he's like trying to not have to, like, he's being threatened by this mob sort of characters who are like threatening him for, so that he'll make this drugs. They want to make drugs, and he is a good upstanding person and refuses to make the drugs and will literally have his wife and son murdered for it. And it's like, no, just make the fucking drugs. It's not that big a deal, and it's not worth your fucking son getting killed or your wife.
Which ends up happening anyway. It's not
the
too
wife,
much of a spoiler.
Not the son. Yeah,
the wife is murdered.
Not worth
goons.
it. See, should have just made the drugs. Not that big of a deal. It's not like, I mean, you're not killing anyone. You're just making drugs. Seems stupid to me. It made me mad.
But that's basically how Nick. We should also mention that Nick is played by Rutger Hauer.
Yes.
If you're looking for an interesting name, there's an interesting name.
Yeah. I mean, Blind Fury is also a pretty interesting name.
That is true. But so Nick ends up taking their son Billy to save him from
Frank's son Billy.
Goons. Yep.
Billy, another good generic white dude name.
Yep. Played by Brandon Call, who was also in The Black Cauldron.
Okay, because he's
fact.
a kid. So.
Yep.
Yeah, this is his debut back when that was a thing that they would do with child actors. God,
back when that was a thing, it still happens today.
Do it? Like the debuting this person.
Yeah,
it feels dated to me.
And
is that
introducing.
Wrong?
I don't think it's wrong, but
it feels dated. Like it feels like Tarantino would do it because it's like, this is a funny thing that people did. Like it's like Hollywood. But I feel like in a serious like a movie that's trying to be serious, they wouldn't do that these days. I don't know. I could be wrong. That I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, so that's kind of I guess the main setup.
Right. So we follow Rutger Hauer's character and Billy cross country as they make their way to Reno, Nevada. They couldn't even afford to set it in Las Vegas. As they make their way to Reno, Nevada, to rescue Frank.
Yeah, who's so like, has to make drugs, and that's the worst thing ever. Yeah, so that's, and yeah, there's hijinks ensue. I don't know, like, it's like kind of a weird.
Basically, yes. Yeah, hijinks ensued. They're pursued by these two cowboy douchebags.
There's like a lot of weird villain.
Oh, and I just called him Big Man because I can't remember. I think they say his name once, but the big guy with the beard,
yeah,
is also pursuing them as well.
Yeah, well, though I thought they were all part of the same.
Yeah, they are.
Thing. Okay, yeah. There's like like you were saying earlier, it's just a bunch of random villains that are like, yeah, they're very like identifiable, but I'm also just like, they all seem to work for the same people.
They do,
they don't we don't get to really know them. They're just like, they're the villains, you know.
They're the bad guys. They're cannon fodder, basically, for Nick to chop into little pieces, and he does do that.
Yeah, this movie is so 80s, and its morality is so problematic.
Oh gosh, it's just great. It is the least bloodiest action movie I've ever seen. Now, granted, I don't want to see founts of blood, spurt from people as they get stabbed, but motherfuckers running around
so
with a katana and like stabbing people in the chest. There's
it's ridiculous.
There's no blood. Almost no blood. People come away with a little, like someone took and just went and put blood on their faces.
No, but it's extremely ungory.
So ungory.
It's
so
like
weird.
Doesn't want you to think about. It wants you to think of violence as a fun thing.
Right,
that the hero does,
there's
as opposed
no
to like actually thinking about it in reality.
Multiple people get their hands chopped off. And there's no blood.
Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. And also, like, I think it bothered me too that I was like, I'm never worried. Like, this is just evokes not a single emotion in me, because I was just like, this guy seems completely untouchable.
Yeah, I don't remember feeling
anything.
A lot of
I mean, all of the things that were supposed to be emotional, I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? Like, because, like, the kid, like, there's some really toxic masculinity weirdness with the kid, and like, Nick is like, that was in the past, like, your dad abandoning you, I don't even remember, or your mom dying, I think was what it was. Right, it was like, that's in the past. Like, you found out about it 10 hours ago, but, like, get over it.
Not only did he saw it happen, and he's just supposed to just, suck it up and get over it. However, I don't see Nick as like this model of toxic masculinity. Honestly, I mean,
in that scene he was.
In that scene he was. But all the other times I think Howard plays him as a relatively gentle soul who only fights when is absolutely necessary. I don't think this person is just gonna go and randomly beat someone up because it's fun. He doesn't take any pleasure in doing this.
Yeah.
He is the very definition of the hermit.
Yeah, like that I mean, he's very, like, individualistic, I think. That's, like, which is not good. Like, and also at the end, he, like, for no fucking reason, it's just like, I'm not gonna help, like, raise this kid, I'm just gonna abandon him. Right, and there's not a legitimate reason to be seen. I mean, if you can't see anything, but, like, it's so upsetting.
Well, and you get this actually quite heart-wrenching scene of Billy running down the street and trying to catch him because he's just mysteriously, they do the whole like bus comes in front of the camera and then he disappears, and I'm just like, it's so cliche, I hate it, but I love it.
Really? Because I was just mad. I was like, there's no reason for you to do this. It's just child abuse. Like, you've already done enough to harm this child.
And Billy's running down the street and he's like, I need you, Uncle Nick, I need you, I hate you, I need you. Like, oh my,
so tough.
Wow.
It made me, I mean, I truly hate the 80s, and I have always hated the 80s, and I will continue to hate the 80s, and it's a big part of my personality, but this just reminded me just how much I hate the 80s. It's such the worst decade.
We're in like the late 80s because a lot of the henchmen have mullets.
There's
pretty choice mullets.
There's some real mullets in there.
Mullets and beards.
Yeah, the beards are timeless, but the mullets are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, even like Billy kind of has mullet-ish. I don't know if it's considered a mullet. It's not really, but it's like halfway there.
If he lets it go, yes, it would eventually become a mullet. But
it's like a mullet in progress. It's like a haircut that really has disappeared.
It's the Jonathan Taylor Thomas haircut.
So it's kind of like more of a 90s haircut.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind. I mean, I guess it is indicative of that time, but it is very indicative of that time.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
very like.
Well, and so this, my takeaway from it, especially it being an 80s action movie, is there is little to no female presence. The only
Oh, not at all. She gets killed.
she gets killed, and then the girlfriend, whose name I can't even tell you, she does a little bit of things. She well, until she gets
She's
her glasses
way too
stepped
young
on.
for him.
She's way too young for him.
She looks
Holy
like
crap.
she's like 23. I mean, maybe a little older than
Yeah,
that.
so we're introduced to her, and we're assuming that she's like Frank's piece on the side, but that's never really stated. And
Like she is, right?
I thought she was, yeah.
But then it's like because he got divorced from the
Right.
wife, so it wouldn't be his piece on the side.
No,
it would just
she
be
would
his
be his girlfriend.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
I take that back.
Yeah. Wow.
she's-
Frank is gonna be really offended. That you
Oh, Frank,
the
I'm so
fictional
sorry,
character.
Frank. Mr. Devereaux, I'm so sorry. No, she's actually really cool, though. I liked her. I did
I
like
just
her.
felt like she could do a lot better than Frank. Like it was just like, what the hell? Like, a man must have cast this movie because there's no fucking way.
Well, and she's just not given a whole lot to do.
Yeah, and she's like kind of damsel to Kate. Like there's a couple times where
couple
she's
times.
like very damsel in a way that's like, come on, are you kidding me? But at least she doesn't get shot. So
Right. But we do get that scene where okay, so actually this is actually kind of ingenious, this whole sequence. The first half. The second half, not so much, but the first half is actually really interesting. So obviously Nick and Billy get kidnapped, recaptured by the bad guys, and they put them in this van, and they're going to drive them to Reno to kill them or dispense with them, or well, at least kill Nick, because Billy they needed as a bargaining chip. But so they're driving to Reno, and they're in this shitty van, and the cowboy villains are looking through Nick's things, and they find the sword cane, which I don't care who you are, I'm sorry, sword canes are awesome. Sword canes, umbrella guns, like, it's all good. It's all good
The
stuff.
sword cane. I feel like this can't even be the first time this has happened in this.
No,
podcast.
it can't. I'm sure there's a sword cane in our
I feel
past
like we
somewhere.
probably have. Yeah. Well, I mean, like Daredevil. It's not a sword, but it's similar.
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
similar vibes.
Yeah. You can stab somebody with it.
Oh, that makes it a sword then,
I guess so.
in a way. I mean, it's a long thing you can stab people with. I guess that is a sword.
Well, the cowboy douchebags are going through his stuff, and one of them finds this cane, and of course,
Should never take a cane
you
away
should-
from a blind person.
first of all, yeah, no, even if it is a sword, don't do it. That's super bad.
Yeah, it'd be not that they really had any interest in him being safe, but
right. Right. But he's playing around with his sword and cuts himself because katanas are supremely sharp. My grandpa had an antique collection, and he had an actual katana.
oh my gosh.
And he would take it out and show it to us, but we were never allowed to touch it because
It
it's
would hurt
so sharp. Yep.
Yeah.
You could decapitate someone with it. Yeah. And of course, the idiot cuts himself on the sword, and in a fit of rage, he throws it out the window. And then Nick and Billy are in the back. Yeah. Yeah.
And Nick is like, I did a little face motion, but he's like, when Samwise hears someone at the door, like he just does it like, oh, my cane.
He knows.
Just so
yeah.
ridiculous.
So he starts to ask Billy to count, and I can't believe I didn't put this together, but he's like, count out loud, do it. And so he does, and of course they escape, and they overtake the truck, and they toss the douchebags to the road. And as they're leaving, Nick is like, okay, remember when you stopped counting? Now count backwards. And then it dawned on me, oh, that's how far away the cane is. That's got to be what they're doing.
That's funny. Did you not know what they were? Did you just not have an idea?
I just was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder why he's having him count. And then when he counted backwards,
funny.
I got it.
Did I? I mean, I feel like I definitely was instantly like, oh, well, I think for me, I was just like, come on, they're in a car. Like, he can't drive. Like, I was instantly just like, are they gonna make the kid drive? Like, but also, like, they need to get out of this car, which granted, they did, get the guys out. So I was assuming they would have to, be on foot. And I was like,
Right,
whatever you're
right.
counting is irrelevant for when you walk
Right.
back. So that was the thing that was bothering me at that time. But I knew what they were doing. Just, I was like, that doesn't work. You have to walk back.
But they find it. They
They
manage,
do,
they manage
and they
to
do
find
get
it.
take over the car. So
yes,
my whole thing
we
is
get
mute,
that
yeah.
we get that whole scene because Nick steps on I'm pretty sure her name is Anne something.
I don't remember.
So he steps on her glasses and breaks them.
Oh, right.
And then and then they hop in the car and they're like, "Who's gonna drive?" And Nick is like, "I'm blind."
And then Billy's like, "I'm a child."
I'm a child, and so he's just like, "Well, I guess I'm gonna have to do this." So he hops over, and we get this crazy car chase with him driving.
So ridiculous.
Because she can't see without her glasses, so everything is blurry to her. So he's like, "Billy, help me navigate," and they just cruise down the road.
It's horrifying. I mean, that part was really scary. That I'll give it that. I mean, even though it's like, well, I guess the kid get hurt, but just as a blind person, I was like, I don't want to watch this. Like,
oh, I know, this is terrifying.
And the way that he's driving, oh my god. Like, I would barely be able to move the car. Like, I would be so terrified.
And he's flooring it,
going. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so stupid, and everyone's like they're just cowering in fear.
I'm not gonna lie, I smiled through this entire thing because as he's barreling down the road, these cars are just vroom, vroom, they're just trying to get out of his way, and it just that made me smile just to see all these cars run for their lives.
I mean, that's true. That is kind of fun. But I was just like, what would happen in real life is they would all die, and
yes, in a fiery death.
Just, it's also like, don't tell blind people to drive.
This is such a trope, though. I mean, Scent of a Woman is probably one of the most famous versions of this scene.
Well, we're gonna have to talk about it. Yeah, it's dumb. It's like, it's such a Hollywood thing. It's because no blind people live there, and they're like, well, they couldn't drive cars. Wouldn't it be interesting to see them drive? Because that's all anyone does.
My
drive.
vision teacher, my vision teacher back home always said that she wanted to take me out into an open field and just put me in a car and let me drive, just so I could feel it.
Yeah,
and that never happened. I'm sad it didn't, only because I wanted to do it with her. But as far as, feel the rush of like putting the pedal to the floor and grabbing the steering wheel, I just don't care about it enough.
I mean, it's just like walking out into the road where you could die. I'm just like, I don't know. There's enough ways I can die as a blind person. I don't need to add more.
And now I'm driving this giant machine that could potentially kill me.
It was like far more likely to kill me than like a sighted person. Like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously I lived in Southern California, so all I wanted to do in my life was drive, and it was very hard. It took very many years to like cope with the fact that, especially because I found out 2 weeks before I was going to get my permit that I was going blind and have been for 10 years. Right. And I was like, oh, great. Well, I could have had those 10 years. Didn't get the 10 years. I didn't get to drive. But I, like, now moving to a different place and not living in LA anymore, like, I don't have, like, any desire to drive. And really, I just wish that we had a country where there was just much better public transit everywhere, because public transit is far better in so many ways. And so, like, the fact that we have a car culture in this country is really problematic and worth just completely addressing entirely. And, not just for the blind reasons. There's also very legitimate environmental reasons. I mean, it's cheaper to ride the bus, and so that's why it's, like, a class thing in this country as well. But, like, in a lot of countries, you don't have to.
No, because
like,
everybody uses public transit.
Right, exactly. It's just assumed you would. And rural areas, granted, are always going to have certain difficulties, like, which is, something to address in general. But, like, yeah, it's a... No one needs to drive, but everyone in movies need to drive because they're in a place where you can't exist without being able to drive. So,
well, I guess it's indicative of the script that you're working on. I mean, if you write about a character who takes the bus, then the character's going to take the bus. But yeah, that's
I mean, but
not
no one
cool.
in LA takes the bus unless it's like quote unquote poor people, because if you can afford a car, then you're gonna have it, because the amount of time you spend like 4 hours just getting. I know people who live in LA where it's like a 4-hour public transit commute to get to their work.
Yeah,
one way.
I believe you.
So that's not something anyone would choose unless they had absolutely no other option. So yeah, but I mean, I don't know how much, like, it's just a bummer. Like, I think that because Hollywood has so much of a, like, at least in American media, has such a big, like, power that, like, you just see car culture, I feel like, in movies far more than like you would if movies happened in Portland or something, But I mean, look at Fast and Furious. Like, this Hollywood fucking loves cars because it's all like, seriously, even if you have a car, you spend an hour and a half getting to work every day in the car. So it's like most of your ideas are like while driving. Like, it's just, I don't know. Anyway, this is my rant about cars. But yeah, that was terrifying, that scene. Yeah. What are some of the other blind person stuff that he did or didn't do?
Oh gosh. Well, I did appreciate him and Billy when they would have a conversation, or him and almost any other character except for Billy's mom when they would have conversations. Rutger wasn't looking at them all the time.
Yeah, he didn't do a bad job at like
his eye
being
lines.
blind.
Yeah. I thought he was rather convincing. I mean, yeah. And I can't say like a blind person couldn't be an expert swordsman or an expert martial artist, because I don't think that's
some of it's ridiculous.
Sword person. Some of it is ridiculous, but it's kind of cool to watch.
Well, yeah. Okay, so I like in the research I was doing, the person that like kind of was, at least for like, that Rutger met and like was kind of the inspiration for his performance was a man named Lynn Manning, who was a champion at like blind judo.
Oh, that's so cool.
And had like won in the Paralympics multiple times, and was like also like an actor and like a very cool person that I just wish we had watched a movie about him, because he seemed way cooler.
Yeah.
Like, and he was he had like lost his eyesight like at 23 in a bar fight.
Oh my god, that's awful, but that's also kind of badass.
I mean, he was like one of 8 children and was like in the foster care system, and he was like a spokesperson for both like blind people and like Black Americans, and it was very cool.
Yeah, why didn't we watch a movie
I know,
about
I was
guy?
like, why didn't we watch a movie about him?
So
He's so much cooler than the Blind Fury.
Good for Rutger Hauer for finding him and building his performance off of him, because knowing that now, you can tell that he studied this person.
Yeah, apparently also he was an accident that he met him just like because he was going to like the Braille Institute to do studying for the character, and he just happened to meet him, and I was like, God, why didn't someone introduce, like, it shouldn't have been a coincidence, like that it would have made sense for him to be consulting on the movie from the beginning, but whatever.
Okay, now, so he went to the Braille Institute and he met Lynn Manning. Okay, so now I might not rip him so hard about the way he used his cane, because at first I was like, God damn it, but I have to remember that honestly, blind people use their canes in all sorts of different ways.
Yeah, what was the way that I was trying to remember. Was he...
Well, he's more of an upright, kind of sort of upright tappy, rather than long out in front of you, swooshy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and which is not super helpful.
No, but people do it. I've seen people do it like that, so...
Because he's supposed to have absolutely no vision, right?
Right. Correct.
Would you do that if you had absolutely no vision?
Fuck no.
Yeah.
I would go stretched
also
out
could
swishy.
Just like hear all sorts of weird, like he can tell that like Billy's flipping him off in the first scene that we meet him, which is like I mean, the way that Billy is speaking, I guess I could see that, but I
would think, yeah, because
I'm like, I kind of buy this. Well, he also just like, oh my god, there's some weird stuff, like when he catches the dinosaur that Bill in that same thing that Billy throws from the freaking window,
and all of a sudden you just see his hand, he comes into frame and he catches it. I'm like, oh yes.
So ridiculous.
That is cheese. I will eat it with a spoon.
And then Billy like signed his name on it, so he's like, "You're Billy. I got your dinosaur." It's so ridiculous.
I love it so much. Oh my god. Oh, the bit where he's confronting in the climax. He's confronting the actually there's 2 points. But it's the bit in the office where he's confronting the kingpin. And the swordsman that he is supposed to fight, this Japanese person comes in and he's like eating an apple all threateningly or whatever, and he like throws the apple and Nick is like chaw and like chops the apple in midair.
So ridiculous. It is like literally proto Fruit Ninja.
Oh my
it is.
God.
It was just like I was like, oh, it's Fruit Ninja.
Yes, I was like, I could watch him do that all night. That was fantastic.
Could just play Fruit Ninja.
Yes. Yeah. And then the other bit in the fight
Actually,
I loved.
that would be such a better movie if it was just him playing Fruit Ninja. And just like people throwing fucking fruit at him. Oh my god, that would be really great.
Everybody's got to make a living somehow, right?
Yeah.
I loved. Of course, you got to have those like one-liners because it's an 80s
There's
action movie.
so many one-liners.
I loved. So he's in the ballroom and he's about to fight like 20 guys. And they're all coming around him and they're like, hey, we got you now. Because they all got like guns and shit. And he's got a sword. And who brings a sword to a gunfight? And then I'm not sure if he does it or someone else. No, Frank does it because it's his hand that we see do it. But all of a sudden, Frank pulls the fuses in the breaker in the ballroom so that all the lights go off.
Do you see him? That's where I live.
And then he just starts plowing through people.
So ridiculous.
Oh my
Wait,
God.
what is the line before that? Because it's whispered, so I can't actually hear it.
He says, I can't see him. Or I can't see anything.
Oh.
He says, I can't see anything. And then Rucker goes, that's where I live. And then
I mean, that's what I do literally every single day. I will say that to someone in some context to be like, oh, I can't see what's going on. I'm like, welcome to my world.
I think he's like right behind the guy too when he says it and just cleaves him.
Yeah, he does. He's right behind him.
Yes. Oh
it is
my
kind of
God.
funny how much sighted people can't see in these scenes where they have to be lit enough for like the cameras to see, which means they're very lit. So
Well, that's called suspending your disbelief.
it's yeah. I mean, I do think like if you really want to make sighted people feel disoriented, you could just really make it actually dark.
Well, yeah, but then yeah. I just thought it was really cool to see. I mean, yes, he's a super crip. Obviously, he's
Definitely, yeah.
heightened. He's all of his senses are heightened. Everything is like that. But
And some of it is like not explainable by
right,
anything.
right, exactly. But it's kind of cool to watch him, especially in this last climactic fight, have to go through all these different terrains and figure it out and deal with it. And he is, blind. I mean, so because in the beginning of that scene, he doesn't know where he is, so he has to crawl through everything.
Listen for things.
And he has
it's like Daredevil in that you're like, I've just suspend my disbelief a lot, and like even though this character can't see, they're still able to do things that not really no blind person
Yes.
could do.
Yeah.
Like the ability to space, like it is a little bit like you're like a sighted
Yeah.
person is not like it's definitely wrote this because it's like you're not.
his spatial awareness is pretty fantastic, and it's
better than mine, and all
Yeah.
my vision is spatial awareness, and he does stuff I couldn't do, so I'm like, come on, I only have spatial awareness, and he, a person with no peripheral vision, seems to be able to like have like far more spatial awareness than I do, and shouldn't really be the case. And also just like, I mean, the 80s-ness of it, that it's also like there's no blood, so the fighting is already ridiculous, even if it wasn't a blind character doing some of the fighting that doesn't really work. It's definitely, there's like a mystical aspect to it, which I guess is also similar to Daredevil, and it's like, yeah, there's like some sort of other forces, and so it kind of makes it like, I don't know, you just have to be like, I think it's also, I'm always with these kinds of things just like, it's the least interesting thing for a blind person to do is just, especially like sword fighting.
Teach him how to fight.
Like, yeah, it's just, I mean, I guess like, not to say that it's not a cool thing if you find ways to like reading about Lynn Manning, I was like, oh, that's really fascinating. And like how in the Paralympics, when you do judo, you have to like start always being in contact with your opponent.
Oh,
and then if
wow.
you are ever not in contact, like physical contact with them, then you have to, you reset.
That's really
Which is like,
interesting.
that's really fun. But then it's like blind people competing against each other. So it's not like, so that's like, I think that's when it gets cool, because then it's like, oh, it's like a sport that like we can actually participate in and not feel like we have to like make up for some, you know, for other people just having a just silly unfair advantage.
Well, yeah, I mean, stuff like this is fun to watch because it's silly and cheesy and goofy, but it's not, you're right. I think the finding out that this is actually based on a real person is more aspirational than being like, yes, I want to be exactly like Nick. That's my goal in life. Because
also, if you were, you would be dead within 5 days, because so much of what he did would get an actual human being who was blind just completely killed.
The bit where he fights the other swordsman on the hot tub and like electrocutes him.
So ridiculous.
Chekhov's hot tub. That was great. As soon as the light fixture fell in the hot tub, I was like, oh, that's how he's gonna die. He's gonna fall in the hot tub. In the middle
of it's so ridiculous.
Oh my god.
And then at one point the cane falls in, like, because Billy throws it to Nick because he loses his cane, the sword.
Right.
And it like definitely goes into the hot tub. Yet in the next shot we see it on the like next to the hot tub. I'm like, that is not where that cane landed.
I missed that. Okay, because I remember like Billy throws it, and then I thought he caught it, or
no, he doesn't catch it at all. Like, he misses it, and it very obviously goes into the hot tub. And then all of a sudden it's not in the hot tub, because I was like, oh my god, he can't have his sword, because like he can't go into a hot tub that will electrocute him.
Right. I thought he picked up the other guy's sword. But I could be wrong.
You could be right.
I think no.
Because I couldn't tell the difference between the swords, because they were swords.
I couldn't either, but the other sword that was not Nick's has a darker sheath. A hilt has a darker hilt.
You might be right then. You might be right that's... It's just weird, because it's like you see the sword go into the hot tub, and the next cut is just of a sword, and he's grabbing it.
Right, because he picked up...
I don't even know if you see, like, what color the... Like, any of it is. Like, I feel like it was like most of what was in frame was just a blade, and so it was very out of context.
But the way he picked it up for me seemed to say, oh, he picked up so and so's sword on the side of the hot tub, but I don't know.
You're probably right. It was just a weird cut then, because it was like you assume that the next, you know, you're thinking, oh my god, it's in the hot tub, and then the next shot is of a sword. It's just a different sword, and it's totally out of you're just seeing a sword, and so you're like, oh, did it not fall in the hot tub? Because I thought it did. I don't know. It was I mean, like, it's also, a lot of it was so visual. Like, there's one-liners, and then every single, like, blind joke or something is, like, not even, like, blind joke, like, making fun of a blind person, but, like, a blind person getting the upper hand.
Right.
It's all still very visual, which, for me, I was, like, kind of frustrated with, because I was, like... So, like, he's just hamming it up for all the sighted people, but it doesn't feel like rah-rah when I'm like, but I can't even fully see what he's doing.
No, I mean, you want to be in on the joke. Nobody likes being left out.
Right. Well, and also that he's, like, leaving out us as I mean, you know, if we think about, like, the blind gaze, it's not, like, it's, like, you could have the blind gaze could be, like, ha-ha, sighted people, you know, try to like fuck with us and we get the upper hand somehow, and that's like what's happening, so that could be geared towards us, but it's not, because it's like all visual.
Right. Well, it's what you said, a visual, clearly a blind person didn't write this, and it wasn't written especially for blind people.
Yeah. It's like very kind of like, I think it's also like, if you're going to do something though that like is kind of making fun of ableism, it is frustrating when it's like you're making fun of blind specific ableism, but you're still making it 100% visual. Like there's just something about that to me that I was like, really? Like I love watching like blind people, you know, fuck up dumb sighted people who are being ableist. Like that's really fun to watch. Like, but it feels shitty when I'm like not getting any sort of context, and I have to be like, what just happened? Did he, like, it seems contextually like he must have like somehow gotten the upper hand, but it's like very unclear what's going on exactly.
There's, you know, it does have its fair share of one-liners because it's an 80s action movie, you have to, but it's not every single scene. I mean, there's a scene where they blow up, you know, they blow doors off the hinges and the doors fall clunk clunk like down, and they walk in out of the smoke, and you're thinking, okay, here it comes, but there really isn't any.
Yeah, well, sometimes instead of doing a one-liner, they just like don't say anything.
Right, he's
like, but it's not like they say anything that's of interest that isn't a one-liner.
Yeah.
like it's also you really like because I could, there was a lot. I just felt like I'm missing so much of this, and like what vision I had, I was able to get a decent amount, but I had to work for. Like I felt like I was just working my eyes, and it was just like, yeah, that was frustrating because it's also like there's a lot of silence. Like if this had an audio description, it would have been so much easier to access it.
Yes.
Like
Oh my
it really
gosh.
needed one, and it was not like. It's not like they would have to be interrupting cool dialogue. I mean, one-liners aside, it still also was just like there's just a lot of time where no one was saying anything and just action was happening. And like it would have been really, really nice for someone to be telling me what was going on. Like that felt very like I was missing things, and like I felt. I mean, like, also, like, even when I was, like, figuring out what was going on, it still felt alienating. I was like, okay, so you're not gonna, like, try to make this more accessible? Because you can, like, audio descriptions, everything should have an audio description. But on top of that, when you write movies, you can make them more accessible to blind people than if they don't have audio descriptions.
I think the thing is a lot of people might think that watching a movie would be the last thing a blind person wants to do.
Which is funny because we
know
watched
that's
so many
wrong.
movies for blind characters.
I know.
The only ones where people were like, oh, maybe a blind person did consult on this. Or they're always like, I love watching movies.
Exactly. I had such a long discussion with an old coworker of mine because he was lamenting the fact that his mother was getting older and she lost her sight. And he's like, yeah, we used to go to the movies all the time. I took her to the movies all the time.
Why don't you still take her to the movies?
Right. That was the first thing I said. It was like, well, why don't you go? He's like, well, why would I go to the movies? And I'm like, you don't have to have
Blind
sight
people
to
could-
enjoy a
yeah.
movie. Yeah.
And like they should have audio descriptions, and also like a lot of the newer releases do, and you can check online, and it's fair. I think it's fair if you want to say like I'm only going to see it if it has an audio description. I do that sometimes.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Well,
especially
and
for
he
things
didn't-
where I'm going to need it.
Right. And he didn't even know about the assistive devices or anything. I basically just sat down and explained everything to him.
Horrible thing is that like there are people who work in movie theaters who don't know anything about it.
Yes, that is the
That's
last
what's so
thing.
frustrating to me.
Yeah, when I worked at a movie theater, we were never told about those.
Why?
No one has ever trained on them.
It's so
anything.
infuriating. And you miss the movie because they'll be broken. They'll give you the wrong one. I can't, like, unless I'm with someone else, I would go to the movies alone. And they would give me the fucking one for, like, hearing impaired people and just make it louder. And then I would miss the first 10 minutes of the movie. And then half the time, they didn't have it for that movie. Or, like, there was something truly wrong with their devices.
There
And I
needs to
just
be-
couldn't get to do it.
There needs to be an app for this. There's already things like
yeah, there should be.
Yeah, there's already
I
things.
think they tried at some point. I don't know if it is very good.
If I can download a riff track and put it on my
fucking
on my
kidding me?
phone, and when the movie starts, hit play and just listen to that on my phone, I should be able to download.
Wait, but they don't
to
have
play
an
audio
app
description.
that does. They don't have an app that really does it though.
Well, I mean, not that I've found.
Because that technology exists that they could actually sync it up.
Right, it's so easy. It would be so easy.
But you shouldn't even have to. Like the app should do the syncing. That
Yeah.
should be part of it.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I mean, it also like if you had, I mean, I guess different theaters would have to make different apps theoretically, but like, because if you had like the Regal app, then I guess it would have to be like each theater you had to like enter. Like I think you could do that, but I don't think you could do it like Universal.
Unless it was a centralized app, though.
If there was a
It should-
centralized app, it would have to like sync up to the sound.
Yeah.
Because it couldn't
Yeah.
be like, because they can't just have all the indie like theaters and all the theaters programmed, their schedules programmed in. Like it would need to be something that just like listens to the movie.
Well, yeah,
Which,
I mean,
like that exists. You could do that.
But yeah, I mean, you can do it at museums all the time. They offer audio tours, and they just give you a little MP3 player, and it's got the tour preloaded on it. All you have to do is hit play.
Well, yeah, but even not like, I mean, yeah, okay, but like I don't want to have to just hit play at the right time, because then I have to figure out when the right time is, and like sometimes with audio descriptions, if it's just even a second off, it'd be infuriating because they would keep talking during the dialogue. Like, so I really think the app should do it for you. Like, I think you shouldn't have to, but I'm not 100% positive, but I'm truly like very much, I'm pretty sure that we have the technology to like do that, like that it's not that hard to like for the phone to listen in, and to, like fucking Shazam exists. They can't fucking like sync up with the movie with with just an audio track. Like it feels like if that technology doesn't exist, I don't think it would take that long to figure out how to do it. It seems pretty like I mean I would love if someone knows for sure and that it doesn't exist. Like I'd love to know why, because it seems like I can't think of why it would be so hard. But yeah, I don't know. But they don't have that. They don't have an app, and half the times movies don't even have the audio descriptions. And sometimes when it's like a big movie, I'm like, what, are you fucking kidding me? And then then the theaters will sometimes, all their devices are broken. And you're like, what?
Well, yeah. And I mean, I went to an opera once and asked for an audio descriptive device, and they gave it to me, and I could never fucking figure it out. They didn't know what to do with it, how to work it.
What? They had like, because someone has to describe it.
Yeah, this was a device that would read the subtitles to me.
Oh, okay. And it didn't do it?
No, it didn't work. No, we couldn't figure out how to do it.
But then you can't enjoy it at all.
I mean, I still had fun. I love opera in general, so I love hearing just the sounds. And it was Carmen. I know the story of Carmen, so...
It's still,
but it was still
infuriating.
You know, I would have liked to have been able to read the subtitles. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I just get understimulated and I have like panic attacks. So I'm like, I just don't want to do it unless I have enough that I not understimulated. But yeah, it's
it's
frustrating.
Yes. But so after that long fight, Nick ends up taking out the big bad and his awful henchman, and Frank and Billy go off to San Francisco
with Anne or whatever
with Anne, to see Alcatraz and do all that fun stuff. And yeah, like we said kind of in the beginning, Nick refuses to go with them
for no
reason.
There's literally no reason other than like, I guess it's the 80s. That's the best thing. He just
has to be the cool stoic loner,
right? Because that's cool, as opposed to like being dependable is cool. You know, obviously bullshit.
Yeah, I don't know.
So it's made me so mad. I was like, ugh, I hate toxic masculinity in the 80s. Whatever, it's fine. It's I mean, it could be worse. It's hard. It's like I feel like this movie, it's difficult to like figure out exactly how to talk about it, because so much of it's visual. Mm-hmm. It's like extremely visual for a movie. And it's like, and the representation is like, yeah, there could be a lot worse things, but it's also like, you know, like they do use some extrasensory things in some ways. So it's like, you know, it could also be like lampooning the blind person, and it's not doing that. Like, he's not supposed to be like, ha ha ha.
No,
he can't see.
He's for all the extraordinary things that he can do, he's a very grounded character. I don't know if I can say he's he feels real, but yeah. There's a steadiness and a groundedness to his performance that you buy. I bought. I was very interested in him, and to see if he protected Billy along this way.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like he was going to due to the movie, it being a movie.
Well, yeah,
or in that kind of movie. But yeah,
you know, I wanted to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is. Did I want to see what happens? I don't know if I did. I like it, but I don't know. I mean, that might just be my personality. But I mean, like, I was like, okay. I wasn't bored at all. I don't think it wasn't then. I was just like, it's just like if I wasn't doing the podcast and I was watching it and something came up in the middle, I don't think I would ever come back to it, because I was like, I do not care what happens. Like, but it was enough that I didn't, like, I wasn't checking my watch. I mean, it's a short movie, but I wasn't checking my watch. It felt engaging, but I just felt like, yeah, if I got distracted and didn't need to finish this, I just definitely would not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an action movie connoisseur, but I was very excited. I was already primed to at least have fun with this because of the awesome and resounding yay my friend gave me. So so I was very excited to see what made him so excited. And I mean, this is definitely one of those, if you have a group of friends or whatever, you know, put it on and watch, and you'll have a really good time. because it's
Yeah.
just silly
And like,
cheesy
especially
and
if the
fun.
friends can tell you what the fuck is happening.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. Well, that's what your friend thinks of it. So what do you think of it? What is your? Let's just like transition into our ratings. 'Cause I feel like
okay.
we're getting to there.
We're
But
getting
like,
there, yeah.
what is your blindness acuity for this movie?
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I mean, you know me, I'm very generous. I'm sitting at like a 2100, especially hearing about how, yeah, Rutger Hauer did model this character off of a real person. He did go to the Braille Institute and he did study, and he's, you know, he takes this character very seriously.
Yeah.
He's still fun and funny and engaging, but he takes this character very seriously. He plays this character like a 3-dimensional person.
Yeah.
So I for that I admire him, and I admire his choices. Is it realistic? Fuck no.
No, I didn't
but
remember.
I didn't come to this to expecting realism.
Yeah. Just I mean, just the name alone.
Right. I got exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
And it doesn't overstay its welcome. And you know, it's
true.
yeah. So it was everything that I wanted. But I don't think I can give it anything higher than a 2100, because, you know, then you start getting into like, well, it's not quite realistic.
Right. No, I mean, I think that's very legitimate. I'm going to give it a 2080, so I'm actually not that far behind you. I think that, like, you know, it was, you know, like I was saying before, it's not meant to be offensive or lampooning him at all. He's supposed to be very capable, like, yeah, and it's unrealistic, but like the fact that you have, you know, anytime you have an oppressed person that's like getting the upper hand, even if it's ridiculous, it's still like, okay, I'd rather watch this than like the reverse, because the reverse would be, I mean, it wouldn't be like action, it would be just like, you know, like I don't know, a drama, I guess. If you're just watching someone be abused, but you know, it is kind of fun. Like, yeah, blind people get pushed around, but we can fight back. And so I think like that's giving me the 28, because sometimes we watch movies where I'm like, this is just so offensive, and like it feels really shitty, like, and I can't relate to this character at all. Whereas I don't relate to him, but it's not that I like. I don't feel offended by being associated with him.
Right, yeah. You root for him. I mean, he's charming as hell.
He is very charming, and like as annoying as it was that they were all visual gags. It was fun that he, like, there were many times where people were being shitty to him, and he like fucked with them. Like, that's fun to watch, and it's like, and sometimes we watch movies where people are just fucking with a blind person. It's like, haha, they're fucking with them. But it's like, that's not funny. Whereas this is more fun.
The bit where Billy comes out of the store and at their first bus stop, and he's just upset because he doesn't know what the hell's going on, and he picks up a stone in the rain, and he's like, they gave me candy in the gas station shop or whatever, and here you want some, and he like shoves it at Nick, and it, you know, obviously
puts it in his mouth.
Yeah, and obviously it's a stone, so Nick spits it out at him.
Yeah,
just like, oh God, you little shit. Yeah.
It's fun to watch
great.
that kind of thing. Yeah, thank you for also describing that, because I realized we said it multiple times where he gets upper-handed, but then we didn't give any examples.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah. That's fun, and it's ridiculous. It's from the 80s, so you can't expect it to have any good representation of any people of color. Seems like it could have had just very blatantly racist portrayals.
There were two people of color, one who's a henchman who dies, and the other one who's a really nice woman whom they take shelter with, but then the bad guys find them, and
I forgot about that.
Yeah, she's the lady who does yoga.
Well, no, because at the beginning there's also like he's at a bar, and there's like a group of like Mexican people who he like fucks with, but they're like really shitty, and I think he like they're like super horrible to him, and like are trying to like poison him or say all these terrible things about, I don't know, but it was just like, okay, well, because at the second scene, there's like you started out with all these like very questionable portrayals of like the village in Vietnam, and then you're just going to, okay, so now we have another like culturally like unsensitive. And I think it was just like the 1-2 punch of this, like, there's only been 2 scenes. Is this the entire movie? Is like sort like offensive stereotypes.
I guess that kind of makes me happy that all the bad guys were just gross white people. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, at least we don't have to go there.
Yeah.
He's just a big fat guy from Texas, you know, who's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's kind of cool though. That guy. I just found him
guess.
kind of cool.
Oh no.
I thought it was cool.
I wasn't sad when he got thrown out the window.
I mean, he was a dick and he was very like violent. He just seemed cool to me. I don't know what it was. He just had a cool swagger. I don't know. I was like,
I'll give it
he's
to you.
just-
Sure.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it was just the actor I found somewhat engaging. I was just, I don't know. He's just like very like what is the term, like
He was very menacing and
yeah.
ominous. Like he'd walk on screen and you're just kind of like, oh no.
Well, he like just he draws attention to himself. I don't know. I just found sometimes like there'll be characters where like people would just like have like such a level of confidence and like I don't know. There's just it's a weird thing. I don't know what that is with my psychology, but it's an 80s action movie.
But I mean, as far as would recommend to my friends,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. To a a group of blind folks, actually, I would. I would for fun. Just yeah. You want to watch something? Watch this. Watch Blind Fury. It's really fun.
If someone made an audio description for it, I would recommend it too.
That would be nice.
I would be like, yeah, watch it. I think I mean, I guess it depends. I don't know. I don't recommend a lot of movies, so that's a very high bar for me. So that's part of the problem. But yeah, it's if you like 80s action films, go for it. They could be worse. There's a lot worse blind portrayals.
Definitely.
I'll give it that.
Yeah, definitely. This is oddly enough, this is not one of them.
Yeah. Could be worse. That's my stamp of approval.
Perfect.
Yes. So what movie are we doing next week, Sky?
Oh yeah, Sky. What movie are we doing next week?
And it's definitely going to be recorded next week as well.
Absolutely.
It's definitely not going to be recorded the second we get done with this episode.
Nope.
But we are doing Apple of My Eye.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. You've probably never heard of this.
Not at all.
People listening definitely have never heard of this because it is a 2017 made for like straight to DVD or something movie. Didn't get like a theatrical release really, but it is about a young girl who goes blind in an accident and winds up getting a guide pony sort of. I mean, now that we have seen the movie, so. But tune in next week to find out more about the guide pony. But that is Apple of My Eye, and it is streaming on Amazon Prime. So actually,
Nice.
Blind Fury is as well. So both of these
Yes,
movies
yeah.
are streaming on Amazon Prime with the membership. Even though I think both of them have a way to rent them on Amazon
Yeah,
Prime,
they
so
do.
don't
Yeah.
rent them if you have Amazon Prime because you could just watch them for free.
Use your membership.
Yeah. But yeah, if you don't have Amazon Prime, I think it's like a couple bucks to rent it. But yeah, so Apple of My Eye, tune in next week for that. And then all we have left is our blind asides. And do you want I go first, I think.
you
That's
go
how
for
we do
it.
it. Yeah. Okay, so my blind aside is the movie Velvet Goldmine. I just rewatched it this last week. It is a Todd Haynes, who's like a queer director.
Nice.
It's from the 90s. I should have looked up the exact year. But it is basically just Citizen Kane, which I guess we have to be weirdly partial to on this podcast. But it is like just Citizen Kane, but with David Bowie glam rock kind of like.
Ooh,
David Bowie is not actually
yes.
in it. It is basically about a character that is very similar to him, that is like
Gotcha.
modeled after him. But
Gotcha.
it's like it is a very like fun sort almost, it has almost like a mystical quality of it. Ooh. But like it has a lot of the same beats as Citizen Kane, so for film buffs it's kind of fun to be like, oh look, that's that scene in Citizen Kane but with like glam rock. But it is a very like, it has, oh, and Ewan McGregor is one of the main characters, along with Christian Bale, Batman himself. It has a lot of really great people in it as well.
That sounds familiar, because I was like, I know there's people that we know in it, but I'm like, I know I've heard of this. Yeah.
It's a great film.
Excellent.
Yeah, so Velvet Goldmine.
How did you watch it? Is it streaming anywhere?
No, I had to rent it, so it's one of those where you just spend a few bucks to rent it. But yeah,
still sounds good.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. If you're gonna go back into like late 80s, early 90s now, it like should have really gotten the date, but to remember. But yeah, if you're trying to go back before the turn of the century, the 2000s, you can watch Blind Fury, but you can also watch Velvet Goldmine. What's your pick?
So mine is a book that I have been reading. Full disclosure, I'm not quite finished with it yet, but I will be very soon because it's not too long. But the book is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McKeeston. And it is a fabulous, so I don't read a lot of romance or a lot of books that are kind of based in reality. But this one was recommended on NPR, of course, and so the plot sounded really interesting. So it is about the president's children, basically, but it focuses on the first son. So in this wonderful future, after President Obama was finished with his 8 years, we elected the first female president.
Was it non-Hillary Clinton?
Well, no. In this version, they're not based on real people.
Okay,
but
Obama's a real person.
Yes, it's set in the real world, but the main characters are not real people.
Okay, it's like Veep.
Basically,
I don't
yes.
know. Yeah,
kind of, yeah. So in this future, in this world, we have the first woman president who was elected after President Obama, and she has 3 children. And the book focuses on Alex, who is the first son. Anyway, Alex has a run-in with Prince Harry. Not the real Prince Harry. This is the fictionalized Prince Harry. This is hard. But basically the Prince of England, and they have a fight at a state dinner that they are attending, and throughout the book as it goes along, Alex realizes that he is falling for Harry. And Harry also has feelings for Alex. And so it is about them trying to come to terms with their sexuality and how they feel about each other, and how they are lovers in 2 countries and how they're going to make it work, and what's going to happen, with the press, and what's going to happen. How is Alex going to tell his sisters that he's in this relationship? So it's very modern, very, very awesome. This is the future that I want to live in, basically.
Could see that, yeah.
But it's so charming and so much fun. I'm having a really great time reading it, and I'm really, 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 really hoping that Alex and Harry get together.
I hope so. You have, so these are the only fiction books I read are like gay male coming of age romances.
God, this
but
is
also
perfect for
seems
you.
to be true of you, because you've
Yes.
literally you've suggested 5 books. I think this is like the 5th one.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I find that very funny. Someday one of us will have to read a fiction book that's not that.
Yes, but if you're looking to read it, and you should. The book is called Red, White, and Royal Blue.
I see now. Now the title makes sense because of
yes.
royalty and presidents. Cool. That's awesome. Well, if you want all the like dudes falling in love content, there you go. If you want like blind people killing other sighted people, go Blind Fury. Now you have a whole cornucopia of Thanks. Our theme song was written by Lucia Fasano. Our YouTube is Citizen White Cane Podcast. You can turn on closed captions for transcripts. Our Twitter is White Cane Pod. Our Instagram and our Facebook are both Citizen White Cane, and our email is citizenwhitecanepod@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave us a voice message, have you done blind judo?
Are you a Paralympian?
Yeah. And how did you win a gold, silver, bronze?
Have you traveled across country in a crazy revenge/rescue plot?
Yeah, and would you set a movie in Reno instead of Las Vegas? Any of those, there's a link in the show notes. You know what? I always forget to say this, but don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and rate it and review it, and
yes,
please tell people too, because we're still gaining an audience, so love that. We're into that. Very cool. And come back next week. We will be appled of my eye. We'll be ponies. I don't know.
Ponies.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Citizen White Cane.
I said get out! Get out!
Come on, you metal act. Move your ass!
Jesus H. Christ.
Yeah, that's one reason I always vote for gun control.